Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, aka Caliban, and the main viewer is for business calls only. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to Discoverage.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back again and great to talk to you, as always, as we do every week. And, I think we should probably do it. I think we have to do it. We got to talk a little bit about the Lord of the Rings, don't we? People are
Perhaps
confused. Maybe people don't know that we talk about the Lord of the Rings instead of the news.
This is actually
at the beginning of the show
podcast.
Yes.
And then Star Trek and then we talk about Star Trek. That's secondary.
Yes. And you won't have to hear it for another year or so after this. Because, of course, the finale, the 8th episode of the first season just aired. It aired last week on Amazon. What did you think? What did you think about the episode? What did you think about the entire first season?
They had me in the first half.
Vis-a-vis the little switcheroo reveal deal thing.
The switcheroo, but also just the first half of the season.
Oh, okay.
I was like, thank God it's this good. I was so worried.
Sure.
Second half of the season, little more confusion, little bit more like, why are we doing this? What's happening?
Why is any of this happening?
A little bit more, I don't know, but I do need to rewatch it because, as I said last week, I do think I'm doing the thing with Rings of Power that I hate that people do with Star Trek.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense because if Teleport and Galadriel are married and he's gone, then why isn't she dying?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do because I want to have fun watching the show.
Yeah, it happens.
That's where we're at. I think I'm gonna rewatch it again. It's a first season, so I think what really caught me off guard is that for a first season of a show, I would expect maybe the first half of the first season to be the part where I felt a little more shaky, or the entire season overall to feel a little iffy.
Yeah.
But for me, it was first half very strong. Second half I felt was weaker, but I'm worried that I'm overthinking it and I need to rewatch it.
Oh, we're all overthinking it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I really liked it. And I think that the only parts that I didn't like were, we worried that this huge corporation, who's making this thing for money purposes, would not get it. And I think that they get it. Just the parts I didn't like were the parts that were clearly done for money purposes. Do you know what I mean? And if you don't, I'll tell you. Creating kind of a false mystery to keep people are going to get bored. Nobody's bored. We all understand the Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson's done your job for you. Just keep us into it.
And
introducing characters that are clearly meant to pay off in the future. If that happens, I know they got this planned out, but some of these people could just disappear. Isildur's sister? What the hell? They make up a brand new character, but she doesn't really do anything. And I'm sure there'll be something later, but it's all the parts that I didn't like were parts that were clearly whoa, this is a show. We got to do some stuff in a show. And I'm like, stick to the good stuff.
Yeah, and not to say something drastic, but I think the first half of the season especially, I found it to be a lot more, I felt like they understood the universe maybe better than Peter Jackson, or at least had a lot more respect. Not that Peter Jackson, I do like those movies.
Yeah.
I love them, in fact. Especially Fellowship, I've seen many times. I'll watch them over and over again.
Yeah.
But Peter Jackson does lean towards this kind of haha, Gimli burped comedy that I don't think
but he
really
knows
lines up.
But he knows to pull back, no Arwen at Helm's Deep. He makes he stops for himself from doing the big screw ups. If we're going to put a value judgment
I think you're right.
on
I think
them.
that's a big
And I think that
you're right about that.
I think that the show has had more chances at bat, and its batting average is lower. But it's also got a lot of stuff right, both from a Tolkien fan perspective and just from making an interesting and cool show. So I'm net positive on it. I'm looking forward to more.
Me too, I think. I also need to take like a deep breath and watch it like casually and not watch it like with my like the binoculars on, you
Yeah.
know? And then maybe I'll just be like, "Hey, this is great." Cuz again, the really serious Tolkien fans that I know are just like, "Hey, this is great." Or like my dad's like, "Yeah, this is great fan fiction. I don't see it as canon, but
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
fantastic show."
Yeah.
I
No,
need to watch it
it's
like that and not watch it like, "What do you mean, Celeborn? What do you mean?"
yeah. Yeah, we have an open marriage. It's an elven thing, so
It's
yeah.
not a thing. You wouldn't understand. He's gone. I don't know where he is.
Well, anyway, I guess if you want to hear, you know what, free plug. If you want to hear more people talking about Tolkien stuff, there's a great podcast called Keep On Tolkien that you can find anywhere you get your podcasts or on Twitter at Keep On or KOT Podcast. I think it's at on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah,
So
it is.
you're welcome, guys.
Plug at the beginning of the show. Crazy.
Let's talk about what's going on in the world of Star Trek. And we've got some news. Unfortunately, it's bad news. A jury has found actor Kevin Spacey not liable today in the civil suit brought by Star Trek Discovery actor Anthony Rapp over an alleged sexual assault of Rapp by Spacey in 1986. So he has been found. It's a civil suit. So it's not really guilty, but it's not liable in this case. And that is that's just terrible. That's just awful, awful news. If you know anything about what's going on with old Kevin these days, he has been accused by a lot of people of the same thing that Anthony Rapp had accused him of. He has even, in fact, been ordered to pay $30 million to Netflix over the basically like recasting him in House of Cards. And that was by, an LA judge. So a show is worth more than the well-being, and justice for a real person. It's very depressing. So I don't know what to say, but Anthony knew what to say. He's already released a statement specifically about it, and I want to read his statement if that's okay. He says, "I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to have my case heard before a jury, and I thank the members of the jury for their service. Bringing this lawsuit was always about shining a light as part of the larger movement to stand up against all forms of sexual violence. I pledge to keep on advocating for efforts to ensure that we can live and work in a world that is free from sexual violence of any kind. I sincerely hope that survivors continue to tell their stories and fight for accountability." So, crappy news. But it's been great to see. I've been on Twitter a little bit because this just came down, and already people are showing support, tweeting good things and good thoughts to Anthony at this time, and we obviously do the same.
Yeah, that was a great statement. As per many things, I had not heard this until now.
Yeah, I like to surprise you with the news.
I'm glad that I feel like Anthony Rapp is setting a really good example, and it was very brave of him in the first place to come out with it, and I've been pretty pleased with the reaction from the fans as well. Like, I feel like people are kind of like standing behind him,
yeah,
which is good. Hollywood is corrupt.
Yeah. And it's not even just Hollywood. He's facing criminal charges in England and in London for stuff he did there, allegedly. And so, yeah, I mean, clock's ticking for this guy. That's what Time's Up's all about, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I think, his time is like, that's the good part. The next, step would be for him to be held liable. Which...
Yeah. And hopefully we pray that day will come soon. But our thoughts are with Anthony today, and we know that it's important, as he says, to advocate for accountability in cases like this.
Yeah.
So, well, let's move on to happier topics. We've just seen the 9th episode of the 3rd season of Lower Decks. It's an episode called Trusted Sources, and we're here to talk all about it. But first, as always, a warning, we're setting a course for the spoiler zone, listeners. So be careful. If you haven't seen the episode, we're going to talk all about it. The official synopsis for Trusted Sources is: a visiting reporter on the Cerritos puts Captain Freeman on edge. The episode was written by Ben M. Waller and directed by Phil Mark Sagadraka. The stardate for the episode, got a stardate, is 58496.1. And no real facts, nothing to know other than just prior knowledge of a TNG episode, I suppose, and some other knowledge of previous Lower Decks episodes.
They filled us in, though.
Yeah, they let us know what happened. Alison Becker appears on the show as the journalist Victoria. And fun fact, Alison Becker has also been seen, she played the journalist Shauna Mulway Tweep on Parks and Recreation for its entire run. So that's who she is. She's got a journalist demeanor, I suppose, gets those roles.
I knew that voice.
What'd you think about this episode?
I liked it. I think that I'm starting to be like, every episode, I'm like, oh my God, this is the one. Spock is going to be here, you know?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then every time it doesn't happen, I'm kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
But I did think it was a really good episode. I watched it actually with both my roommates who aren't Trekkies, but will occasionally watch Lower Decks with me, and they seem to like it.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, because it is an episode that does seem to require a little bit of knowledge. Like you said, they tell you what happens, but maybe the nostalgia or the things that they're bringing up aren't hitting quite as hard if you're somebody who hasn't seen it. I think it's interesting.
Not quite as hard, but it was like very action heavy for Lower Decks.
Yeah,
I feel like
it
was exciting. Like the Breen coming off their ship, I feel like it was like, whoa, like what's going on? Which was great, I think, for all of us. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I think that this is like the apotheosis of this theory of mine, or this thing I keep pointing out, of the shift to story from comedy, or at least to mainly story instead of mainly comedy, because this is really plot heavy, but
it's also really funny, like at every, you know what I mean? I
didn't think this was as funny as,
it
as
wasn't
other
like
ones had been, but also it's like, you know, it's okay to not be funny if you're, you know, they're laying track story wise, and that's fine. And also, like, I think that you do a thing where you go, here's a premise, we go back to the planet where the cokeheads, like, you know, get cut off from their dealers. Now let's write jokes. Oh, we're kind of making like a positive Star Trek show that kids are watching. So all of like the addict jokes, which are possibly insensitive.
I mean, I'm sure there are kids watching Lower Decks.
Oh, there's definitely kids watching. Yes,
but are the
absolutely.
littlest kids watching Lower Decks?
Probably, yeah. But anyway, all I'm saying is, like, I can see a bunch of LA comedy writers coming up with a bunch of great, like, Coke jokes, but then, like, we can't really do them, like, on Star Trek. So instead it's just like, oh, you know, they're really into fitness, you know, that's their drug. Ha 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 ha. It's like, okay, that's probably as far as you can go with all the addict humor.
I don't know. They've made some pretty, like, I feel like they could have if they wanted to.
Well,
maybe they felt like they were going too far.
I wish they would have. Why would they feel like they were going too far? They're the ones that, like,
I mean, you know,
out of 178 episodes of TNG, they're like, nah, get me the one where there's a bunch of coke addicts with electric hands.
Like, you know, there's a little line that you cross to get to the addict jokes. There's a street that you're walking. There's a crosswalk somewhere that you know, the comedy crosswalk that you cross to get to the addict jokes. Which I guess they weren't willing to cross.
Yeah, well,
which I would understand.
You stop at that crosswalk, and hiding behind the light pole is a young girl who is vaporized by the Breen. So all I'm saying is, like, they're comfortable going dark. I'm like, go dark. Like, I never understand. I've never found this show all that funny, as you probably know if you listen to this show all the time, and it's because I just feel like they never go, you know, deep enough with the humor. And I don't know if they are.
You want them to go full.
I don't know what.
You want them to say jokes that you would only make to your best friend.
I want them to make jokes that you would see, you know, on a sitcom. Like, everything okay over there?
I think so.
I just feel like all the jokes are just sort of like first pass. This is kind of silly. Whoa, blueberry pie, and it's like, all right, but like, you know, what if we had like a joke that's maybe a little off color? Maybe some people are going to get angry. Piss people off.
What is the off color joke that you would make about pie?
I wouldn't have well, first of all, you get that the blueberry pie thing is a reference to Breaking Bad, right?
I didn't.
Okay, so in Breaking Bad, Badger, one of Jesse's friends, he's getting high with Skinny Pete, and they're talking about Star Trek, and he's saying, like, I don't know if he's like pitching this. I think he's pitching it. It's an episode he wanted to write where they're going to have a pie eating contest on the Enterprise. And Chekhov is going to win because he's talked to Scotty, and Scotty's who's going to use the transporter to beam the blueberry pie out of his stomach as he's eating it. So he's putting these pies away and he's putting them away. But then, I don't know, something happens. Scotty's, drinking scotch or something like that, and he messes up and he ends up beaming some of Chekhov's guts into space with the pies. So Chekhov's like, and he's like bleeding, and it would never, nobody's going to say yes to that. Even Gene Kuhn wouldn't say yes to that. But that's like this little skit that they do. And this has to be a reference to that. A blueberry pie eating contest
in Breaking Bad, that's a bit?
Yes. Google break it. Not right now. After we're done.
Are you sure not right now? Are you
Google.
Sure?
Well, we'll sit. Okay, she's watching it. She's watching it.
Everyone wait.
Google Breaking Bad blueberry pie and like Chekhov or something like that. You'll find it. Yeah.
I just feel like I would have. Not that I don't have an attention deficit disorder, but I'm shocked that I don't remember that. If there,
the show was on a while ago.
Extended Star Trek bit for Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So do you feel so? It must have been. I guess you're right. Then it must have been.
I think it was an Easter egg. Reference. Yeah, just an Easter egg. But otherwise, like, I don't know. Like like you weren't here for the Ewok Village peanut hamper one. Like Mika and I, we did not like the peanut hamper one very much.
I just can't. Most of the world joined you in that.
Oh, really? I thought people really liked it.
I thought people did not like it.
Oh, okay. Well, then good.
I saw people being like, "What the hell was that?"
I just don't feel much about this one. It's fine. It's a setup, clearly for the finale, and it's also, it's it's the penultimate episode.
The finale is next week, right? It's 10 episodes.
It is.
So that means that next week is the episode.
Yeah, okay. All right. You think this is gonna? I thought. Are they going to do Lower Decks goes on to live action and live action comes to cartoon? I thought they were going to be in the live action one. You seem to think that...
This whole time I thought they were coming on Lower Decks.
Well, I've heard you say that and I've doubted whether I knew it. And now I know that I don't really know either. So maybe we should have talked about that during the news.
I am going to Google this during
the
show.
You Google it. I'll complain some more. That's what people are really here for. So anyway, my point about the comedy is, like, I don't know how to tell you how to do jokes. Like, look at Seinfeld, right? The Contest. The Contest is one of the most famous, well-loved episodes of a sitcom of all time, and it's rated like G or PG, and there's nothing that really happens in it. Obviously, The Contest. What's the one where it's a different one where Kramer thinks he sees Salman Rushdie at his club, right? Anyway, they all run together for me. They all run together. But the point is that they just take like the conversation, nothing's even happening, and they just make it funny. Like the things that they say are funny. And this is just like they're bouncing around and they're doing all this stuff, and clearly they want to have ship battles and they want it to be a space adventure, which Star Trek, totally it is. But that's not like a comedy show. It's not funny. So I just want to know when the show's going to decide really what it wants to be, or do them both. It doesn't make me want, but it makes me think that I need to watch the Orville, because I feel like this is probably what the Orville's like.
Mika,
and I know that Orville watchers have been frustrated recently because they feel like, whether they like the comedy, there's less comedy, and if they like the adventure stuff, they're like, no, it's like, it's just TNG now. What did you Google?
I need a moment. This whole time.
All right, I'll complain some more. So anyway,
this whole time,
I got some great straight edge jokes if you want. No, go ahead.
That we were gonna get Ethan Peck and Anson Mount voicing animated Pike and Spock.
No, I don't think
the Lower Decks actors are going on the live action show.
Yeah, right. Because they'll and they'll just be they'll be in a hologram or something like that, right? Like, or maybe there's a time warp or something. I don't know.
I have a quote. So from Jack Quaid, Tony Newsom and I are playing live action versions of Mariner and Boimler.
Right.
When did this article's from like?
Good. Brain. You still got it. I'm with you, brain. I thought I was losing my mind, but yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Did you notice the whole? So is that?
Well, I don't want to. I also don't pay attention, so I didn't want to think like maybe. Look, I don't. Maybe I don't know. No, I know. I know what it is. So yeah. So that's what it's going to be. Because here's the thing. I like Anson Mount. The guy's got a great handshake. He smells of rich mahogany. But like, he's not going to go on. He's not going to do a cartoon show. He's not doing that. This is hell on wheels. What are we talking about here? But those two, they will definitely go on somebody else's show. So yeah, that's what it is.
I'm mortified.
She's coming apart in real time.
There's so many feelings because I think that's even better. Like, I want to see them on Strange New Worlds, but I've been operating since Mike McMahon tweeted as though every week I've been like, this week Spock is going to be on Lower Deck.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, now you've got something else to look forward to. Something different than what you thought it was.
I think I tweeted about this on Star Trek Unlimited. Why did no one tell me? Why was no one like, Ella, what are you talking about?
I don't know. When you read tweets, how closely are you reading tweets? I feel like I'm just like, keep going. So you're okay. You're fine. You know what? You can make content out of correcting yourself.
And you know what? I will. This is an eye-opening day. I'm feeling very shook. And what the next show that's airing is, how long do I have to wait for Strange New Worlds?
It's going to be a while. Yep.
Cut to credits. I gotta go.
So speaking of sitcom plots, it's a real sitcom plot tonight.
My life is a sitcom plot.
Yeah, well, this is a sitcom plot. In that, Mariner thinks that, Freeman thinks that Mariner is the one who said all the bad things, and she gets rid of her, and then turns out, no, she was the only one that said something good. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah. Yes, indeed. I thought it was kind of silly. It also raised
Jennifer, though, right?
Yeah, what? Yeah, well, but they have to sell it. Like, everybody's got to be mean to her.
Hang on, something's happening in the chat.
Oh, okay.
What does this say?
I think people are they're commiserating with you.
Thank you. That is much worse than what I've done.
Let's go to the chat. Fandom Casual user says, "Don't feel too bad. One of my friends used to think the word for driver of an ice cream truck was prostitute. And so she told people for several years that's what she wanted to be when she grew up. And no one corrected her. So, first of all, very accepting environment.
Yeah. Nobody was like...
We'd want to say sex worker, first of all. But second of all, great environment that she grew up in. Yeah. So, I just like the music. That little tune that plays all the time. So anyway, it was really
sick. Truck in my neighborhood plays like, sorry, this is a tangent. It plays like, I don't know what song it is, but the vibe of it is like as if the ice cream truck is playing like, what is it? Eine kleine Nacht music? Like it plays like a really haunting classic. Like it doesn't play ice cream truck music.
It's like it's just like King
in
movie.
The distance. Yeah, and I'm like, what is going on? I haven't heard it in a while, obviously, because it's we're deep into the fall here in good old Minnesota. Anyways,
all right.
So I guess Spock will not be in the finale.
No, he won't be in the finale, but we'll see him again soon.
And soon, not soon enough.
So anyway, Freeman asks tonight, am I a cruel taskmaster? And the answer is yes. She is a cruel taskmaster.
And this is why boss is though.
But this is why she's a terrible boss. But I don't hold it against her. She's not real. She's a character. This is a comedy show. It's like Drew Carey. It's funny that the boss is like mean, right? Like that's funny. Yeah. But you also wouldn't say that show was canon, though, would you? So I think Lower Decks wants to have it all. It wants to eat all the blueberry pies. And I'm like, I think you need to decide if you're funny or you're, adventure that's kind of humorous. I think you need to like just, have a koala be God. Fine. But like, don't try to tell me that this is like canon. Do whatever you want. Bring more celebrities on. Mess with them. You know, like they had Tom Paris on, that was fun, but you don't really think like Tom Paris is gonna. He's not having Kazon PTSD flashbacks, right? Like this isn't canon, is what I'm saying. I'm complaining about three things at once. Why don't you praise three things at once and they'll balance each other out?
Okay, Slay. I love, they get an easy giggle out of me anytime they bleep a curse word on this show.
Yeah.
I laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Mika said something in the chat. I mean, it is canon because they do say it's canon. And now they're going on Strange New Worlds, so I think they're going to cement, I hate to say it, but they're going to cement themselves in the canon. Also, fun fact, in the article that I was just reading while we were on air, Jack Quaid said that they did the purple hair for Boimler when they shot the episode.
Sure, yeah. I wonder if it's a wig or they just did like a rinse type thing. Because he's got like this kind of like swoop, but you don't want it to look too fake. He's not a cosplayer.
Gotta be a wig though. You can't just dye purple.
Yeah, you could do it. You could just spray it in or something like that. Or I don't know. Or maybe it's just like purple highlights. It's like the whole thing's not like Ronald McDonald, like a photo
maybe they
negative.
just do it in post-production.
It just costs like millions of dollars trying to get his hair right for like
just
a
like
30-second
Henry Cavill's
clip.
Mustache.
All right. Well, anyway,
or was that Chris Evans?
I reserve that was Henry Cavill. I reserve the right to complain, and I do. And thanks for listening to me complain. I appreciate it. I just wish
we balance each other out.
I wish this show would,
It's almost like we should have like a podcast together or something.
Yeah, almost. I don't know. We'll look into it. We'll see what the chat says.
We'll talk about it later.
But I just wish that, I wish that this show was. I feel like it's inconsistent, and I wish that it was more consistent. But I'm sure that there are people who would disagree with me, and that's fine.
I think that the consistency of a show like Lower Decks, it's like I want consistency from like Discovery. And I don't know if we need consistency in the same way, but it's like from Lower Decks, I want like haha pie, like with this, that, but and then I feel like they not that I don't mean to like, they also hit you. I feel like Lower Decks, you're like, oh my gosh, she is really leaving? Spooky.
No. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I want consistency from like, does that make sense? Consistency I want to see in Strange New Worlds.
Well, it's weird. Like, we can talk about it. The original series, right? It was 3 seasons, and that's all it was. And it was written by people who were very skilled at formulaic writing. Any old Star Trek thing, you take phasers out of their hands, you put Colt single action armies in their hands, and it's the Rifleman or it's Gunsmoke or something like that. A guy rolls into town, there's a problem, solves it, keeps on moving. It's just like the way that episodic TV was back then, and like TV continued to be that for years and years and years, and TV is like totally different now. And maybe it's because I'm just too old and I can't get with it, but like I don't feel like TV has found a new way to deliver that kind of consistency. If you've got like a Stranger Things, that you've got to. Okay, you're going to quickly find out that I didn't watch the last season of Stranger Things, but that you've got to stop Vecna, right? And he's going to make things worse and worse. And then we've got to. Oh no, something happened to Chrissy, so we've got to get with Eddie. And we've got to go do something. And it's going to build up to a big confrontation, at the end. And like TV shows were never like that. Maybe in the finale of the season there would be something big, but they were always just like delivering this pie slice of comedy, this pie slice of action, this pie slice of, whatever. And I just don't think that like there are some shows that are designed to be like Stranger Things that are designed to just go, it's a 10-hour movie. And then like Discovery they're caught between these two things because they're kind of delivering that 10-hour movie, but they're also like, this week we're going to like really focus on like Culber's conflict with Tyler or something like that. But it's still not like consistent because some weeks it's literally just, here's 10 scenes that all just move the plot forward. And I don't know, I just feel like I get like viewer whiplash. And I don't know if it's ever, I think this is just it now. I think this is just reality. This is just like the way it's going to be going forward until Netflix goes bankrupt, which it'll never happen.
Well, yeah, we got a few years out until then. I guess I...
Like, what'd you think about like the Rings of Power? Did you think that their episodes had structure like in that way? Or were they just another installment in this, ongoing saga story?
I feel like you're getting into like an area of like film like critique where like things that people like say, like the things that we know make a good movie or TV show, and the things that make a movie or TV show that people really enjoy,
yeah,
the lines start to blur.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to think of an example. The movie, let me know if this is making sense.
Yeah.
The movie Eurovision, starring Will Ferrell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is maybe not critically an amazing movie, but in practice, watching Eurovision starring Will Ferrell is a great time.
Yeah. But I already know when whoever sat down to write Eurovision for Netflix, they already knew, here's our premise. Mm-hmm. It's Eurovision. Then I haven't seen the movie, but I'm going to guess there's somebody who really wants to make it, and it seems like they're not going to make it, but then they get to the top and they make it, right? So there's our action. That's what's going to happen in the movie. And then we've got a certain set of characters, and each of them will have kind of an arc, and then the movie will end. And that's when you sit down to write a script, like that's what you do. I don't know what the writers of Star Trek Discovery do how do they know they're finished? Like when they're writing, do you know what I mean? Like they know that we discover that there are lights, and then we'll figure out what the lights are. And we'll also go to the future because we've decided that we're going to do that at the end of season 2. Everything in the middle is just like cut the sub enough so that there's 6 inches for everybody to eat. But like the sub was not made so that there's the same amount of tomatoes and salami, throughout the sub. Do you know what I mean? And like usually when you sit down and write a script, you go, we've got 4 acts because there's X amount of commercials. And so that's how this is going to work. And that's like gone now. So I think storytelling has become more chaotic or serves a different sort of master than just we're going to give people like the acts of a story like a play because that's how we've done drama all these years.
Well, I think it's also, and
I'm making you work for that degree.
Thank you.
You're paying it off.
I'm not entirely sure that we're on the, and I do, and every day I do. I'm not entirely sure that we're on the same page, but this is Mika. That's exactly what I was about to be like. I feel like also maybe we're edging into like now that TV isn't airing every like week, it's like they're dropping on a streaming service. You can watch it whenever.
Yeah.
I think maybe part of what you're talking about has been like lost in that this isn't going to air on like, it's not just going to be like, oh, Star Trek's on now and it's like a random episode. You know what I mean? Mm. It's like you're going to go to watch it with purpose. And so I think maybe just like script writing has changed in that it's not like you're writing an episode that needs to be like, the structure has to be perfect every time it's viewed, because you're never going to be just like flipping through channels and like find Lower Decks on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, although, things play in syndication still, and there's all these digital channels now where they show like old Rockford episodes. There's just a Rockford channel now. You can just watch Rockford. And so like fast forward 20, 25 years, is there going to be a channel where they're showing Discovery and they just show a random Discovery and you're like, who's with the thing and what's going on?
In 25 years, are TV channels like since I
Oh, so
moved
this
out
is
of
you're okay. So you're proposing that we're in the TV end times. This is the
a
last
little bit.
act
Well, I
of
mean,
TV.
I've
So we're
never
just
since I moved out of my parents' house, and even the last couple of years that I lived with my parents before
yeah
I like went to college and maybe like during the lockdown, um there was never like when I was a kid that it would be like, okay, I watched Nickelodeon.
yeah
But like in my lifetime, it's like I can't I can't imagine. I don't know the last time that I ever like. It's like when the Olympics come on, I'm
yeah
like, how do I get the TV on? I'm like, how
yeah
do I get NBC? Like I don't know,
yeah. No,
and nobody I know has regular
I
TV. You
haven't
know what I
watched.
mean?
You might not have been around the last time I sat down and watched broadcast TV, and for me, it was really learning how to episodes from Doctor Who. When the Doctor Who revival came back, and I realized that it wasn't going to air here until they worked a cable deal out, I learned to get things, and once I learned to get things, that was it. I never watched broadcast or cable ever again. So, like, yeah, I get it. But what you're proposing is a universe in which everybody involved knows that that the traditional storytelling is over, and it just grab everything off the Titanic because this baby's going down, and I don't know where we're heading next.
I mean, I don't even know. Like one of my roommates, like we've had Hulu Live for a while because
What is that? Like local channels or what is that?
No, it's like so she just like loves Grey's Anatomy, and so she's been paying for it. She pays for it while Grey's Anatomy is on, so she can watch it right away on Thursday nights. And
so it just like gives you like things that did just come out on broadcast.
But you also can watch live TV. Okay. And like me and my other roommate were watching like the Wrexham documentary, and we were like, oh no, we watched this. This is a while ago. It was like, oh no, we watched all the episodes, and it was like, oh my god, like Hulu was like, this episode is premiering, in 10 minutes, like airing in 10 minutes. And we were like, we can watch it live. And it was like, it was like I think the only reason we watched another episode is because we were like, oh my God, it's going to be live. We can watch it live on TV.
Wow.
And it was like a thing.
You listen to our Victrola later. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was like, let me go ahead and plug in my grandpa's record player in the living room. We can listen to that after. Which, we've drifted, I think.
Well, anyway, yeah. Speaking of old technology.
I think the conversation is worth having.
Yeah. Speaking of old technology, I like the space Rolodex. I thought that was funny.
That was funny.
But anyway, yeah.
That was a good bit. They got so many good bits.
We'll see what happens. I think that it's interesting that they're introducing like the idea of like here's something else. They're always like touching ideas that I want to talk about in Star Trek. Like I love Second Contact, or even like Operation Swing By. You need a better name, but like we get it. Like Picard ruins these people's lives. We never talk to these people ever again. So I really love the idea of coming back, but it's just a setup for the Breen being there so we can have an action scene. Like I wanted to see like the Breccian planet. Like, is it just like the whole planet is like an 80s Coke den, a lot of black leather furniture and like Nagel like prints on the walls.
Sherlock Holmes, and it's like I went to the opium den.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I mean, they had like palm trees. I think it was supposed to be like LA in the 80s, the planet, but but anyway, so I like the idea of them suggesting having the robot ships because they did that in TOS, and it's something that we're facing now, which is like we want to go to space, we want to go to Mars and all these places, but doesn't it just make sense? Why don't we just send a robot? Like, what is it about us going there? And clearly Starfleet has solved that problem or has answered that question. We want to be there. It's more important than sending a Data or the Doctor, or we want to be out there. And so I think that Lower Decks can totally be a sandbox where you can examine those ideas. So I'm looking forward to what we however this wraps up next week. But don't bring the Packlids back. No more Packlids. We're good on Packlids. We're full up of Packlids. That's what I say.
We've had plenty. Give somebody else the spotlight.
Yeah, for sure. Don't hog the spotlight, Packlids. So anything else to say before we sign off here? Give our benediction?
I don't think so. I feel like we did a little bit more of a deep dive into like modern television and cinema than usual, but I liked it.
But, you know, we're both viewers of a lot of that stuff, and you have a degree. I like talking about it.
Thank you. Cinema is the word is in my degree. That's official.
Yes. Cinema is art. No, theater is art. Cinema is life. And TV is furniture. That's what my English professor said in college.
Your English professor?
Yes.
That's a wild thing to say.
Well, my theater, my drama professor, not the guy that taught me to act, but the guy who, we did Shakespeare and stuff like that, read that stuff.
Interesting.
He's probably dead now, but I wonder what he thinks about TV. Why can't I see Cheers? Well, anyway, that's it for our show this week. Thanks for joining us, listeners. If you like what you hear, you can get more of it and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when we are live and broadcasting. You can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage or email us at EISTPOD@gmail.com. And while you're on the internet, head to your listening platform of choice, give our show a rating and a review, subscribe to it because it really does help us out. Discoverage will return next week, October 27th, for the finale of the third season of Lower Decks. We don't know anything about the episode, but we'll be here.
I think we know that Spock won't be in it.
We know that Spock won't be there. It's been confirmed. Yeah.
And that's okay.
And we'll be here next Thursday to cover it. And we'll also be covering the return of Star Trek Prodigy that night as well. Prodigy returns for the second half of its first season with an episode called Asylum. And because they're both half-hour episodes, I say we just cram them together, have the Lower Decks Prodigy hour. So we'll do the whole show in one go, live at 8 p.m. Central next Thursday. So join us then. Follow us on Twitter or Facebook to get notified when we're live and broadcasting. In the meantime, go check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. Every week on the show, I and a special guest discuss in excruciating detail a selected movie from the Star Trek universe. And we've got news and special guests and news from the Trek sphere. This week, we're dark this week, but our newest episode is still available. On it, I'm joined by podcaster and writer Chris Sims, and we talk about his favorite Star Trek movie, Star Trek Nemesis. I know. Come see the Freak Show. I talked to Chris Sims about how Star Trek Nemesis maybe not that bad. I also want to take a moment to talk about our other Star Trek podcast on the network. It's called Backtrekking. And on the show, I and my co-host Gooey Fame talk about the origins behind your favorite Star Trek episodes. Our new episode just dropped. And on the episode, we talk about Wolf in the Fold for Spooky Halloween, the original series episode, and the short story that inspired it, a story called Yours Truly, Jack the Ripper. Yep, Scotty's killing showgirls, and Kirk wants to know why. You can hear that episode at Backtrekking on Twitter or wherever you get your podcasts. Ella, thanks as always for joining me to talk about Star Trek and the Star Trek universe, and remind people they can find you online.
Thank you. If you want to see me tweet incorrect things, which I think maybe is the first time that's happened on this account.
I think you can definitely.
You can follow Star Trek Unlimited. Speaking of Prodigy, I have purchased and downloaded the Star Trek Prodigy video game onto my Switch.
Oh, great.
I haven't played it yet, but when I do play it, I will be tweeting about it on that account.
Okay.
Everyone should follow Star Trek Unlimited.
Is it online multiplayer?
I don't think it's online
or just couch co-op.
I know that you can do couch co-op. I don't think it's online multiplayer.
Yeah, I have not got that one yet, but it is on my list to pick up. So
I did. I was like, I think that's maybe the second time since I got the Switch that I've bought a game right when it came out at full price.
Yeah.
And the other time is like I figured out a few weeks ago I didn't know that the Skyrim anniversary expansion thing had dropped.
Okay.
And I bought that immediately because that's my favorite video game ever. And I also purchased Prodigy. So really they have
they got your number, your credit card number.
They have, they sure do.
Well, let us know what you think about it.
You got it. Listen, Jesse Gender buys a video game, and I say,
you
too.
you gotta go.
Me too.
Let us know if you like it, and I'll be getting it too soon. And we actually stream video games right here on Twitch, so subscribe to us every 12 p.m. Weekdays. I do the Laser Lunch Hour where I do games And that's now here. It used to be on Twitch, EISTPOD. Now it's here on Twitch, Just Enough Tropes. So subscribe here. And in the future, I'll be playing the Prodigy game. You can find me, if you're looking for me, on Twitter at KA1IBAN. And you can find all of the material on the Just Enough Trope Podcast Network at Just Enough Trope on Twitter. Well, that is it for us. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're signing off. This is Aaron for Ella saying, live long and prosper.